Hey YouTube family, it's Humberto from GrayLaw TV. Guess what? Yep, GN. I got GN. For those of you new to the channel, GN is good news. That's what I do. I bring good news from cases that I'm working on currently. I let you know in real time what's going on. If you want bad news, you got to go to the other channels. All right, so I got so much to get to today, so let's dig in and let's get to it. So good news is that the NBC, the National Benefits Center, which is part of USCIS, so you have district offices that are local, right? That's where you go to your interviews. And then you have USCIS, the service centers that adjudicate cases. Well, the NBC, the National Benefits Center, they help the local district offices adjudicate cases. You know, they get employment authorizations out, they get travel documents out, advance paroles, etc. So what I've been finding is really, really good news. The NBC has been issuing approvals, okay? So this one case that's really, really interesting of mine, I got the waiver of the final interview for an I-751 joint application. And so that came from NBC. Usually it comes from the district office. In that case, what I did was, when my client got to the 3-year mark on his conditional green card, I actually filed for citizenship, okay? So what happens is, they will call you for citizenship. If they haven't adjudicated your I-751 case, they will pull that case and they'll work on it. So it's kind of a way to get the I-751 approved because they're taking so long, they're taking over 2 years. So you can file for citizenship if you had your green card for 3 years, irrespective of the fact that the I-751 has not been adjudicated yet. So in this case, we went to the interview for the N-400. The officer recommended approval of citizenship. Subsequently, from NBC, apparently they pulled the case and they just approved it without an interview, the I-751, which was great. So my client's waiting for the swearing-in ceremony and he'll become a US citizen. Great news. Another bit of great news, NBC also approved one of my third preference employment-based petitions, okay? Usually they're approving the EB-1s. My EB-1 petition, because there's no job offer requirement, but for the third preference petition, there is a job offer requirement, and generally there is a interview. I got a waiver of that final interview from NBC. That's great. It wasn't from the district office. It didn't even get there. So that is really, really good news. Also, on the petition, as you can see, it says supplemental J approved. What's a supplemental J? With regard to an employment-based petition? What it is, it's an application that you need to submit with the adjustment of status that the employer is attesting to the fact that there still is a job offer for you. It is also used in connection with what we call portability. If your adjustment of status is pending for 6 months or more, and you no longer have the job offer from the entity which got your labor certification, you can get a third entity, if it's a similar occupation, similar wage component, to fill the supplemental J, and you can still get your green card from this new entity. So, you know, they're approving them. That's great, without interview. That's fantastic. So some more good news on the length of time adjudication for waivers of interview from employment-based cases. Look at this case. We filed the adjustment in March of 2020, right when COVID hit. So you would think this would take a long time, right? August, we got the work permit. August of 2020, we got the work permit. September, interview waived. Permanent green card issued. So that's good news. Length of time, even during COVID now. These things are moving, folks. So that's wonderful, wonderful news. You want to hear some really good news? That fee increase, you know, where immigration, we're going to substantially increase the fees in connection with cases. Well, a federal judge issued an injunction that immigration could not institute this fee increase. It was supposed to take effect October 2nd. It no longer is taking effect. So what I'm doing is I'm having my staff and my clients, I'm still trying to file these adjustments because we never know when this injunction is going to be lifted. It is preliminary. You know, immigration is going to fight for the increase in fees. So if you can get your case filed before that fee increase, that's great because it's pretty substantial. There's some substantial changes in there. Number one is premium processing. They want to change premium processing from 15 calendar days to adjudicate to 15 business days. That would give them, a lot more time. Certain applications are going up substantially. In 400s, 80% increase from 725, which is the current cost file, to 1,160. So if you got citizenship, you better get those applications in before these fees increase, because they will. Ultimately, they will be increased. So I've had some clients who have green cards, and they're stuck overseas due to COVID. And I've been asked, Humberto, what do I do? What do I do? Because generally what happens is when you have permanent resident status, if you are out of the U.S. for more than 6 months at one time, when you're coming back in the U.S., immigration can give you a hard time. They can ask that you show that you haven't given up your green card, that your intent was to remain in the U.S. If you're out for more than a year, there's a presumption that you've abandoned your green card. So what do? I'm overseas. And it's been more than 6 months. In some cases, it's been more than a year now. So what do I do? Okay. Well, one thing you can do is you can go to the US Consulate. You can request an SB1 visa. You have to prove that you haven't abandoned your permanent resident status in the US. You have to show that you still have a home there, bank accounts, job, family, etc. And you have to prove that your length of absence was certainly due to COVID, okay? So no flights, you gotta prove that. You gotta have screenshots that show there's no flights, etc. You do that at a US consulate. Of course, you have to wait until the US consulate opens, but it's at the US consulate, okay? The second way that you can do it, if the consulates aren't reopening, so you can get this SB1 visa, you can get on a plane, get to the US at the port of entry, CBP, you tell them, look, I have not abandoned my residence. It was COVID that I couldn't get back. Now they have an option to allow you in. Worst case scenario, if you get a bad officer, you tell the officer, I want to see an immigration judge, okay? And they have to defer you into the United States, and then you can see an immigration judge and you can prove your case. So, but that's good news. Try for the SB1 visa. That's the better route because it's going to take you a long time at CBP if they want to give you a hard time trying to come into the country, okay? Another instance is where you have, for example, an I-551 stamp in your passport. So if you have a conditional green card, let's say, right, you filed to remove your condition, you get a receipt that automatically extends your green card for 18 months. Let's say you go beyond 18 months and you don't have any evidence to get back into the US. That's where you can go try to get the SB1 visa, or you can again try to make an entry into the United States. There is a form at the port of entry, I-193. You can pay for that form. CBP will allow you to enter without a visa, okay? It's sort of like waving you in. And, that's a great option for you as well. So, hey, you can fight it at the border, try to do it at the consulate. Great news that it's available. All right, I got more good news. I told you I had a lot of good news for you. I'm telling you, lots of things happening, folks. All right, immigration has extended the time to respond to RFEs, to NOIDs, Notice of Intent to Deny, Notice of Intent to Terminate, appeals. Okay, I-290B is the form to appeal certain decisions. N-336, citizenship appeals. Okay, they've extended the range of time where you can benefit to have an additional 60 days from the due date to respond to one of these notices. Any RFE or other type of decision that you can appeal that was issued March 2020, now they've extended it to January of 2021. So any notice within that date, you have an additional 60 days. That's wonderful news. So, take advantage of this stuff. Sometimes you're going to need that additional time to respond. Finally, October visa bulletin, employment-based third preference cases, current, a lot of movement. It's wonderful. October is the new year for immigration. It's the new fiscal year. So there's new numbers that are available. Fantastic. Hey, YouTube family, thanks so much for watching GrayLaw TV. Click below, like and subscribe. Stay safe, and I am going to keep bringing you GN.